Ventures. In the program, Diego Belmonte, I think, is scheduled to give the speech. He's not here today, and I think Vincent Evolution. So I have a background in policy and work on the East Coast office for New Ventures, which is based out of San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and development really the gamut for the Eastern Seaboard. Sure, sorry. Just, give away if I can follow. So I thought the background, I know it talks a little bit about VC, sort of financial sources for starting ventures. I'm going to get to that at the end. I'll give a little bit of an introduction into our company, how we came to being, financial tools that we find. I think the second of it will talk markets and really end up being drivers for renewable energy and really what's making this market, this economy go forward. Solar PPA, that's a sort of tool that we use and really come to the forefront of renewable energy generation as a means of making it cost effective. And I'll get up to a Q&A on Stern Capital and transfer titles, really just like that. Renewable Ventures is a independent power finance, own and operate utility size and industrial size commercial solar projects. We are a merger recently between Photoaudio, which is a large Spanish multinational, and MMA Renewable Ventures, which is based in San Francisco and has been one of the leaders in the United States. We have a staff of 50 and we're operating 35 megawatts of PV in the United States, which places us in the top 2 or 3 for solar. We have the Nellis Air Force Base. I don't know if anything saw President Obama. That's one of our relations. It's interesting the way this has evolved as a merger between Photoaudio and MMA. Photoaudio got their start in Spain, really powered by the feed-in tariff, which is kind of underscoring the point of my discussion today, and really speaks to the importance of policy in the market for solar as well as renewables in general at this stage. So Photoaudio is targeting, really worldwide. Our first tier markets are Europe and North America. Specifically in Europe, Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal, which all have strong and robust government incentive programs. North America clearly is the future, as always, but in the United States. No offense intended for Canadians in the room, but the U.S. market is really taking a little while to wake up and catch on the trend. But once it does start moving forward, there's no doubt this will be a leader for renewable energy worldwide. The project worked on throughout the U.S. Kind of have a little bit of data here. We worked with municipalities, government institutions, stores, military installations, and this really underscores the value that solar and solar PPAs in particular as a means of financing solar have for anybody that uses electricity. It's a scalable technology. It's a product that can be used really on any location as long as there's a fast service, and we've had tremendous success deploying it throughout the U.S. The target markets, and feel free to sort of translate this. This is applicable to solar, but it's also really applicable to wind. It's applicable to extent to energy efficiency, retrofitting, green building. It's really a market that's two-pronged, has a two-pronged approach. The first is the federal driver. In solar, this is a mix of the ITC, which is the investment tax credit, and the marginal accelerated cost recovery, which is 5-year tax depreciation. That sets the groundwork for the viability, and then really what's driving on a localized level are state renewable portfolio standards, which is what we look for when we go into new states. Also the driver behind the states that are leading the market right now in renewable energy. So obviously you want a mixture of strong solar resources, high utility rates, which are a nice bonus, but without the state programs, you're not getting anywhere. As an example, Germany right now is #1 country in the world in solar. Not really what you think of when you think of a sunny place, but nonetheless, the government incentives have pushed it to the forefront. The PPA, this is the means of financing that we use, and we found it to be really the predominant and the most popular means of making solar accessible to customers, to clients, and ultimately to partners, because that's what it is when we enter into a PPA. It's a partnership between ourselves and the site host. The PPA is structured so that we'll look for a site host or a partner or a client, call it what you will, and we'll enter into the contract with them for the purchase of electricity. They have a 10 to 25 years completely contract dependent obligation to purchase electricity from us, from solar, and that's it. We take care of the building, the design, the finance, the installation. There's no operation and maintenance risk on them, and their obligation and their responsibility on the end of it is to be a business to put their end of the purchase agreement. So to that end, the PPA we found is the extreme effective means for making learning accessible technology. There's no upfront cost to the client. There's a great relation to the demand profile of electricity, which is going to be a little bit expensive. So imagine it ends up being really a net positive for their electricity bill because they offset the location rental price, which is when the utilities charging nice rates with the solar. I guess maybe I should give clarity. The PPA is a contract in that you're contracting for term, but you're also contracting for price. You come up with through a negotiation, there's an agreed upon price for solar electricity, and that ends up being through a guarantee for the duration of the contract. So to that extent, it's a real beneficial hedge on utility rates because you're able to guarantee your costs for the term of the agreement, and you're able to cut out the variability in the market. And I think that really came to a head last summer with commodities prices shot through the roof. In terms of making the financing of the PPA accessible, and that's really one of the key components of renewable energy, is we're able to monetize benefits, we're able to convert the depreciation into a financial return. And a lot of people, a lot of clients, partners, it's not in their interest to learn how to do that. It's not in their desire to enter that space. And that's one of the values that we're able to bring. So you can see here, this is a graphic showing the increase in electricity price in California. That's the line sloping upward, and then the kind of crazy blue line is the variability in electricity price over time. PPA would cut right through the middle of that and would provide a stable, calculatable, predictable energy cost going forward that eliminates really variability in the exposure risk. PPA transaction is there is no formula for it. There are commercial clients, there are industrial clients, government, military, municipalities. Generally, you're looking for an entity that will be there and is committed to maintaining its business and its existence. So obviously, with that goes credibility. Obviously, states, the policy drivers, those remain tremendously important. California, New Jersey, Maryland, Arizona, Hawaii, Colorado, these are all states that have policy drivers that push renewable energy forward, and that effectively has with solar. The size of the system, again, is dependent on to get economies of scale. And so you increase the system size, overall costs go down. Electricity costs and size of the space requirements are also variable based on technology, installation, demand profile of the customer. And I suppose I've covered the PPA. So this is really the driver for renewable energy and solar specifically, but you can take this and it can be applied really to wind, to really any technology, I suppose, geothermal as well, although that's a different scale. The metering rules are, first and foremost, those are the electrical regulations that are placed by the state or by the utility in question. Without a proper regulated grid, without proper interconnection, criteria in place, there's no real point in installing any sort of system that takes you off the grid because it's just you're estimating yourself depending entirely on solar. The federal tax investment credits, those are something that are uniformly applicable across the U.S. Understanding those really gets you in the door in terms of financing any sort of renewable energy credit, because that is the first stepping stone to making something remotely commercially deployable. On top of that, you have the state incentives, the state rec programs. I touched upon that briefly, and those vary state by state. It's really gets down to be a different market in each state. You have some overlap in the northeastern states because of the deregulated electricity market. Without getting too into specifics, you have PJM Power Pool, which is basically a market for electricity. But the state market incentives are the drivers and ultimately what needs to be focused on and understood in the creation of a business or in the creation of an enterprise on a local or statewide level. They vary tremendously. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which I'll get into a bit in dialogue, will be a tremendous driver for this industry throughout it, because there are billions and billions of dollars coming towards it. And understanding where that money will channel to in the states and in municipalities on a county level will provide a tremendous advantage to whoever's able to tap into it. Affected